Hello, my name is Carulia. If you're watching this, you're here to celebrate my album Our Shape in the Negative with me. This video is coming out on the 1-year anniversary of its release, and I really just wanted to reflect on this project and the impact that it's left on me and some of the impact that I've heard from other people, and just sort of, think back on the year and this impactful project and the process of how it got made. And starting that off, I kind of just sort of a brief peek into my year since this project has come out. I something that was very pivotal in the process of making this album was me realizing that I was transgender. And excuse me, a joke that I've made quite a few times to people in my life is that halfway through this album I realized I was trans, and you can definitely tell, in my opinion, I think there's a pretty clear mark in the track list at about 9 tracks, the transition from glider stride into Ouroboros, in which basically the entire second half of the album was made post-transition, and I think thematically and lyrically that transition is reflected super deeply in that too. And yeah, I find it so cool how this music has documented that change. And I think in that change, the second half of the album definitely gets a little bit more experimental in production methods and stuff too, with some more how do I want to say, electronic and weirder sounds that you hear on Did You See It? Oh Hyper's blending more house music. Blue Glow's got that big drop at the end. Go to Bed's got some weird LCR panning in the drums, and I think in contrast to the first album that feels much more grimier and super guitar driven, I just think having that contrast is really cool. And the further away I've gotten from the release of this album and from creating this album, I think that distinction makes this project, in my opinion, just so replayable and so palpable, because you can hear halfway through something shift. And I'm super proud of that, and I'm super proud of how impactful that change is. And yeah, speaking more on some other impactful things about this project, for me and for other people, I want to talk about some of the most notable songs on this project. For me, some of the most notable ones being Go to Bed, that I just talked about, because I think production-wise and lyric-wise, I think it's so fun and playful, yet also deeply serious and deeply resonant with who I am. And again, bringing up that LCR panning of the drums, that comes mostly from listening to the Beatles and a little bit of the Doors. Just some of that 60s production where it's you're either panned hard left, hard right, or straight down the center. And I'm mostly playing with that on the song, on Go to Bed, in the drums specifically, but I think it gives the song a unique flavor that the rest of the tracks on the album don't have. And for me, that's why it's been the most impactful and the most re-listened song in the past year. And then I'm also super proud of Blue Glow, just in what that means for my journey. Because that song specifically was super inspired by the movie I Saw the TV Glow. And then Blue Glow, the blue light of a screen glowing back at you. And a lot of what I'm talking about on that song is immediate post egg crack, you could say, just using whatever methods I can to kind of avoid the big scary feelings of coming out that in the end culminates in this big, beautiful, bright, loud explosion. And I think that is so much of what being trans is. There is this, like, at least from what I've heard from people and in my experience, there's just this like weird, awkward, painful buildup to this sudden click where everything just suddenly it simultaneously in this land of confusion and discomfort, it just everything makes sense, and there's this sense of relief and realization. And that's kind of what I wanted to portray with that song, and for that reason I think that song has stuck with me so much too. Plus, just on like a very primal level, like going from fun, weird, whooshy guitar sounds into big, loud bass and drums and super in-your-face production, like it just snaps you back awake. And yeah, for that reason, that song's also definitely stuck with me. But then songs I've heard from other people that have really stuck with them, specifically like Swift, if we're talking in terms of streams, that song has easily been the most listened to, which is kind of surprising. Like obviously I put that song as a single leading up to the album, but I don't think I was expecting it to be to blow the rest of the songs out of the water in terms of streams. But that song being slightly different from the style that I normally make my music in, I think it's really cool to see that I can still be just as impactful with my music even when I'm not like sticking to what I know. I think it's definitely helped encourage me to like further push the boundaries of what I can make and what I'm comfortable making. And so for that, it's really cool to see that song doing so well, at least on a like very pragmatic level. And then finally, the last song that I took note of that I wanted to talk about was Oh Hyper. And that song, something really cool that happened was I got someone wrote like an article about that song, which I'll link down below if you want to read it. But yeah, that song was very important to me in the process of making this album, as it deals heavily in me deconstructing the ways that toxic white masculinity has implanted itself into me and into my life, and how in turn I've taken that out on people throughout my life, whether that be when I was a kid with friends and family, or up through adulthood to now with my partner and the people around me. Like that song is, yeah, just me slowly trying to break away from the mold that I feel like that I grew up in, just on a societal level. And that song is also very danceable, and it's got big, heavy hitting 808s and very soothing guitars in it. And from the people in my life who I've talked to this project about, that song seems to be one that the most people can get around. Like a lot of people that I've talked to have really enjoyed that song, just on a like replayability, listenability level. And that's really cool too, because a lot of my stuff ends up being super distorted and grimy, and then listening to like the first half of the album specifically, you can hear a ton of that super fuzzy, distorted. But knowing that I have that capability to make a song that's danceable and fun while also super serious and steeped in these topics about these extremely important topics about like deconstructing this toxic masculinity and how like addiction plays into that, and it's just really cool to hear that that song can hit so hard for so many people, even just on a, like, this is a cool, fun, danceable track level, on the most basic level of it. Yeah. And then something I also wanted to talk about is how a few weeks ago this song on one streaming platform finally eclipsed 1,000 streams, and I've never had a project do that in ever. I don't think. And maybe cumulatively across all streaming platforms, but the fact that it's eclipsed well over 1,000 at this point is like mind-blowing to me, coming from just a few years ago when I really started focusing on making my music, getting like a couple streams from like close friends and stuff, to now where my music's at. It's been really incredible. And then talking on some of the reach of the album, I really wanted to talk about a review that someone made of the album. Excuse me. In a Discord, I shared my album, and then a couple weeks after the album released, someone gave like a full track by track review of the project, which was utterly mind-blowing. Like, for the first time, for someone to like really deep dive into my music, someone that I have no idea who they are, like a complete stranger, to enjoy my music that much, to write a song by song review, was so cool. And something that I thought was really funny that they touched on in regards to the song Alex's Bump, which is produced by Huey Mantra and features lyrics by Alex David. Alex, who is not trans, there's a line in the song where he says something along the lines of gazing into past lives. And the person that reviewed this project specifically pointed that line out and noted it as being perhaps like a thematically trans, or like a trans allegory for, or just to be symbolic of being trans in some way. And I thought that was so interesting that line specifically resonated with them for this, for the general theme of like transness, because obviously in this album that is like a very core part of the project in its whole. But for the line by one of the only features who is not trans, to bring that out of them, I just thought that was super fascinating, and I just want to thank them for that review. That, like, I'm still thinking about it a year later. It's just so cool, and it just means so much to me to be able to like hear and see what people, the impact that my music has had on them. That is like, I never expected it, but oh my gosh, I feel so grateful. I feel so seen. I feel so heard. It's pretty incredible. And on the topic of like people who helped create this album, I really want to shout out all the people who helped me bring this project together. Shouting out Tulo, my lovely partner, who features on Full Court Lob and Swifts, both of the singles. Huey Mantra, who produced Alex's Bump and Glider Stride, two incredible songs. Alex David, who obviously I was just talking about, does the vocals on Alex's Bump, absolutely crushed that song. And then Ismael Cadena, who did all the art for this project. And then touching on a general level, specifically with Ishmael and the art for this project, like I have historically, with all my previous music, taken on the role of production, vocals, mixing, artwork, everything. And this was the first time that I had this many features on a project, and I had someone else do the artwork for this project. And that was a big step for me in trying to open up and allow my music to personally impact me in the way that I believe music should, in that it brings us together. And this album definitely opened me up to that and brought me closer to people. And I feel like eternally grateful for the fact that someone dedicated so much time to making all of this beautiful art for the project, and someone else dedicated time to making incredibly cool instrumentals for me to use on this project. And then other people spent time creating vocals for this project that without any of that, this project would not be anywhere near the same. And so I really want to extend a thank you to all those people who worked on this project. This album would not be the same without any of you. And I don't think I, as a musician, as an artist, will work the same ever again. Like, I don't... Maybe I won't have direct vocal features on an album, but like I want to stop being so insular as an artist. And I think that's something that this past year has taught me, like working on this project and in the past year since. That's something that I've really learned to be better at, is opening up a lot more to create better art and to connect with people on a human level. And my music has really helped me do that big time, and this project specifically really was the catalyst in making that happen. And I'm so grateful for this project for that. Something else that I wanted to talk about was some other inspirations for this project. Just gonna list a few. Sia Gray played a huge role. Devin Hendricks, Mia Gladstone, Standing on the Corner, Sophie, a lot of like 90s alt rock and grunge, specifically like Pixies and Nirvana. You could hear a lot of that in like the guitar tone on the first half of the album. And then for like a lot of more introspective lyric wise, like Saba, Smino, Mavi played a huge role in that, as well as King Cruel. The band Cruza played a big role. Peter Cat, Eve Toomer, Salami Rose Joe. There was a lot of different musical influences that played a hand in mixing this up. Also like Bill Evans, Gil Scott-Heron, Amy Winehouse for sure. I'm going to triple underline Bill Evans. I'm never going to remember her name. I feel like a bad person. And then a few artists that I really want to point out that helped specifically in inspiring me and help influencing me with like arrangement, album and song-wise. Prince, specifically Purple Rain, played a huge role in that. Kendrick Lamar, D'Angelo, specifically Voodoo, in my opinion, the greatest album I've ever heard. And then Erykah Badu, specifically the New America series, but part 2. And I also think that Erykah Badu does a really great job of like curating art, the album art, and like color to the music. And I really did my best to pull from that too, to pull inspiration from that, just because she's a fantastic artist. It's a great great at arranging, great at curating art for stuff, for her stuff, and just wanted to shout them out too. mixed by Ali and Alex Toomey. Watching some content by them really helped me curate my vocal chain that I used on this album, which I revitalized for this album from old stuff. On my previous projects, I had a different vocal chain that's just evolved throughout the years, but I kind of stripped it all back and restarted, and those two engineers really helped me curate it to get my vocals sounding pretty good, at least. I'm working on tweaking it again, but that's every album's different. So and then some other non-music stuff that really played a big influence in this, like Adventure Time played a huge role. Ethel Cain's YouTube videos of her just like talking, that's kind of also inspired this too. But I think just that like personal connection that you can develop in relation to the music, not to the artist, but I think the personal connection that you can develop to the music via stuff like this, I think is really cool, and I want to cultivate more of that. The movie Coraline, Truman Show, both movies of like big transformation and change and adversity, and over the past few years having been so difficult for me in many ways, but specifically mental health wise, I think both of those movies have played very pivotal roles in inspiring me and keeping me grounded and keeping me motivated and keeping me in touch with myself. And so, yeah, as far as inspiration goes, those are some of the things that I wanted to highlight. There's infinite more things, but off of the short list that I made, those are the ones that I definitely want to highlight. Yeah. And this, the making of this album, it was a really difficult couple of years that it took to make this album. And in the process of making this, in one way or another, I've been working on making this album for 5 years. By the time it came out, 4 or 5 years. And actually in 2022, in November of 2022, an iteration of this project was to come out. But I want to say like 2 or 3 days before it was set to release, I ended up scrapping it. And in the bio of this album that you see on Bandcamp and YouTube, I mentioned that it was like a bit of an identity crisis that led to the canceling of releasing that iteration of this project. And then in the 2 years post that first identity crisis, I really reworked everything. I essentially started from scrap while keeping some of the core ideas of it together, but it eventually like metastasized and evolved into this project, which was greater and more grand than whatever I had before. And I think for me, music has become something that is so therapeutic. I use it as a way to journal, in a sense, and to just sort of get ideas out of my head so that I stop ruminating. And yeah, this album is just packed to the gills with what would have been sickening rumination, but instead I turned it into something beautiful. And and something I got to share that too with people this year in doing a few live performances. But there was one specifically that sticks out, and that was when I performed at Rad Pride, which is like an anti-capitalist mutual aid pride here in and PDX. And I got to perform at it, which was so cool. It was really a great experience to go be around queer people and perform my music that is inherently anti-capitalist, feminist, pro-trans, pro-queer, pro-liberation, and just to be able to go be around queer people and perform it and share my music was really a special experience. And it was also the first time I played a set as long as I did. It was almost twice as long as any set that I've performed before, and I got to read a few of the poems that appear on the album in Daily Kneeling and Ouroboros. So yeah, that was really special. And I want to say of the 14 songs that I performed, 11 or 12 of them were from this project, and that was really cool, and it felt really, really special to share this music in that way through a slightly different avenue. And I'm really proud of myself for doing that and for getting that opportunity. Yeah. And another thing that I'm really proud of is the fact that I made CDs for this project. And I've sold quite a few too. In the past couple years, I've gotten a lot like into CD collecting because just because of the direction that a lot of the streaming platforms are going, in not paying artists fairly at all, and two, also just being super shitty, like Spotify platforming ice and sharing ice ads. It's fucking disgusting. Fuck ice, fuck Spotify. And so yeah, I've been getting a lot more into physical media, and for this, in making this project and in sharing this project, I was something that I wanted to do was I wanted to, one, make an album that I would want to listen to, which I did, and I wanted to make products for that album that I would want. And I wanted a CD of this project, and so I worked with a local printing company to help print the slips, and I got the stickers printed, and I spent a night burning a bunch of CDs, just on my laptop, burning them all, and then stickering them and assembling them. And I got all of the materials aside from like the graphics, like the CDs and the and all the cases I got from a secondhand store in Portland called Scrap. So it's all reused stuff, which I also really love, and I think it's really cool that I was motivated to do that, and the fact that a few people have bought albums is it's so incredibly cool. I think this album cycle has really shown me just like the impact that, like, it's cool to have seen the base of supporters grow as much as it has, and selling physical media is another cool way that that's happened. Yeah, and then also in regards to physical media, I just got them printed. I got bumper stickers made for this project. They just came not too long ago, but it says, I listened to Kerulia's 2025 album, Our Shape in the Negative, and halfway through, I realized I was trans too. And I designed the bumper sticker, got them made, and I'm super proud of them. I think they look so fucking cool. Yeah, just this is the first project that I've always had ideas for merch in some capacity, whether it be like shirts or jackets or fucking socks or headscarves or jewelry. I've had ideas for my music before, but this was the first project that I spent some time really making, and that's how I ended up with making the CDs and making the stickers. And yeah, that was such a good feeling to just make that, to get that out of my head and to put some merch into the world of my stuff. Yeah, this album has been insanely transformational for me, and the year since has been as difficult as it has been fruitful in healing and in just dealing with more mental health stuff. But like, I would not be in the place that I'm at without this project, and I'm just so blown away at the response that this project has gotten from people through the internet and just people that I know personally. I feel so honored that a piece of work that I made has affected as many people as it has. It feels really special, and I couldn't be more proud of something. And yeah, in this in this year since releasing the album, I've also been working on a lot of music. It took me a while to get there, but thank you to a push from a fellow artist, I've finally started working on my next project, which I will play a short clip of one of the songs here. Is education that worth it? Waves gripping on me, touching on me, taking over my body, slipping from me, vision slowly taking over completely. Gripping on me, touching on me, taking over my body, slipping from me, vision slowly taking over completely.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.
I'm so excited for this new music, and it feels like to me it feels like I'm taking a step further in cultivating the sound that I want to cultivate, that you hear through, like, ideas interspersed throughout Our Shape and the Negative. You hear some of the bass of that, some of the feet of that, and I want to continue to flesh it out, take it from the skeleton that this project is and flesh it into something even more than I ever imagined. Yeah, I just want to keep pushing and keep making great music. And any of you who have stuck around to listen to this project, stuck around to listen to me talk about this, I'm so excited for you to hear my new music. I'm so excited for you to see the new art that comes with it. And yeah, I'm so grateful for where this album has brought me on a personal level, on a level, just on every level. This album has really been a huge step for me in my journey, and I'm so proud of it, and I'm so proud of myself for where I've come from and where I'm going to with my music. And yeah, thank you for listening to me ramble. I could really go on for a long time if no one's here to stop me. But yeah, thank you for listening. If you haven't heard the album all the way through, and for some reason you just sat through like a 30-something minute video of me talking about it, you should go listen to the album. It's really good. It's great. In fact, it's awesome. It's cool. It's made by me. Yeah. Thank you.
You there, UAC stickers. Yeah! That's great. So what you're a musician today, 5 now, that make you better. Well, better. They're cool. Maybe they'll bring some rest of this crazy world. Maybe they'll make you laugh, or dance, or think, or hooray. Just pushing out every day, hoping to like hooray at some point. Anyways, we can't really listen to our shit. Just a friend, listener, another.